Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 1, Soul Wear. Chapter 1 Soul Wear. Well, my head hurts. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Chen, who was thirsty, woke up from his sleep. He wanted to pour water to drink, but he felt his hands resting on his arms. Smooth and delicate, like a woman's hand. How could there be anyone? When Yang Chen opened his eyes and looked over, his head suddenly exploded, and he looked at the woman lying beside his bed with a stunned expression, unable to speak for a long time. Chen, you're awake. I don't know if it was awakened by Yang Chen, or if the woman woke up by herself, only to see a face that was both unfamiliar and familiar. The woman's long hair was loose, covering half of her peerless beauty, but the only half of her cheeks made people fascinated when they saw it. Seeing Yang Chen staring at him dumbfounded, the woman's face was not unnatural, and she was not ashamed and angry as she imagined. On the contrary, there was a little bit of joy in the corner of her eyes. Gollum. Yang Chen's stomach growled unsatisfactorily. Facing this strange woman in front of him, Yang Chen couldn't help but blush. Seeing Yang Chen's embarrassed look at the moment, the woman's face that always looks like an iceberg in front of outsiders on weekdays melted instantly. Maybe because of the consideration of Yang Chen's face, he just blinked his eyes and didn't show it. However, from her bright eyes, it is not difficult to see a faint smile. Soon, the information about this woman in Yang Chen's mind flooded frantically. Shui Yufei, the eldest lady of the Shui family, her fiancé. Fiancé? I was born again. Quietly glanced at the unfamiliar room, and then countless memories flooded into his brain, which made him frown. The stinging pain was gone in a flash, as if it had never happened. He is indeed reborn. In his memory, his name and appearance have not changed much, the only thing that has changed is that his identity, age and place are different. Yang Chen's predecessor was born in the 21st century, the era of the outbreak of the Internet. And the age of this body is the 20th century, the early 1980s. Specific time, 1981. The time gap between the two has spanned nearly 40 years. Of course, these are not the most important thing is that where he is now, it is not inland. According to the memory left by his predecessor, he should be in Hong Kong at this time, the Hong Kong that will be called together with New York and London in later generations, the third largest financial center in the world, an international financial, trade, shipping center and an international innovation and technology center. Is separated from his inland home, although it can't be said to be 108,000 miles away, but at least two provinces are separated in the middle, and there are no how many cities and counties. Well, even with rebirth, there is nothing to worry about. Goo goo. An empty stomach after drinking is comparable to the law of Xinxiang, and no one can avoid it. Yang Chen embarrassedly touched his belly, the little belly that had grown fat in a previous life disappeared. It's great. Yang Chen's inexplicable smirk, Shui Yufei's eyes flashed a trace of doubt, then she shook her head and said, I'll go get you something to eat. After finished speaking, he left the room without waiting for Yang Chen to respond. It wasn't until Shui Yufei's back disappeared that Yang Chen let out a long sigh of relief. He raised his head and looked at the environment around him again. Yang Chen blinked, reached out and touched his face, thinking about the identification methods of the reborn seniors who have tried and failed. Yang Chen didn't hesitate at all, and slapped himself twice. Hi, it hurts. After slapping, pinching thighs, pulling ears, biting arms. After completing various tests, Yang Chen finally came to a conclusion. He was indeed born again. They come, the security. The memories of S predecessor have been preserved intact, so Yang Chen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In this way, at least he didn't have to pretend to have amnesia and deceive people everywhere. At the same time, it can also prevent him from becoming famous in the future, and being suspected and guessed by people with open minds from all walks of life. People in this age may not be, but not necessarily in future generations. Warm reminder to all book lovers who like Xiangjiang literature, there is no doubt that this book, like many novels, has one thing in common, that is, the previous article is poisonous. I hope you can hold on. For book lovers who like Xiangjiang 1, you might as well read the public chapters. Anyway, it does not cost money. The number of starting Xiangjiang 1 is limited, and there are not many eunuchs. The younger brother hereby declares in advance that he will not be sealed, with a minimum of 1.5 million words. It's 800,000 words now. Yes, I came from behind. Some book friends have always said that I have 3 golden chapters and the beginning is too bad, and the public chapters have no money and don't have to worry about writing them. The Conscience of Heaven and Earth. The first time I wrote a Hong Kong essay, I'm confused, who knows how to write it, and I'm not a great god. I have been fighting in martial arts before. I wrote this Xiangjiang essay just because I liked the period of Xiangjiang, whether it was entertainment or business, or, cough, don't talk about this, the god of crabs, with eyes all over the starting point, it's better not to provoke it. When writing this book, my younger brother was crossing the river by feeling the stones. The beginning was rotten, and no matter how bad it was, there was no way to change it. After all, we need to pave the way for the previous article. The starting point is the god of crabs, and Xiangjiang is also a hard-hit area, and my younger brother is also very anxious. Fortunately, some book friends who skip the poisonous spots are very powerful, and the subscription is stable, so that the younger brother can eat. The update is stable and the grades are stable. As long as the book is not sealed, it is guaranteed that it will not be unfinished or Unix. This is the first time to write a Hong Kong essay. It is a lot rough. I hope everyone will forgive me, thank you. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 2, Fiancé. Chapter 2 Fiancé. The place where Yang Chen lives now is a cozy 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom residence. Because the location is good, the monthly rent is not cheap. Originally, this place was not intended to be rented, but for the sake of Shui Yufei, his fiancée, he had no choice but to rent it. To say that the Shui family was considered a wealthy family in Xiangjiang in the 1980s, although it was not as good as those top wealthy families with tens of billions of dollars. However, Father Shui, who is worth hundreds of millions, can be regarded as a member of the upper class of Hong Kong. And Shui Yufei, the eldest young lady of the Shui family, is also the only daughter of Father Shui. She has lived a privileged life that everyone envied since she was a child. It is hard to imagine that she would live in such a place with her predecessor, her fiancé. Shui Yufei lived here with Yang Chen, not because Father Shui did not accept his poor son-in-law, on the contrary, Father Shui had nothing to say about his son-in-law. In 1973, Xiangjiang experienced an unprecedented stock market crash. Both Yang Chen's parents died unfortunately, and Father Shui took Yang Chen, who was only 10 years old at the time, into the Shui family. Father Shui has always had high expectations for the son of his old friend, and he spared no effort in cultivating him since he was a child. Even because the Shui family only had a daughter like Shui Yufei and no son, Father Shui almost raised the son-in-law Yang Chen as his son. In the 1980s, the manufacturing industry in Hong Kong was very developed and prosperous, and it was also called the Four Little Dragons of Asia with Wanwan, South Korea, and Singapore at this time. Shui's father's worth of hundreds of millions mainly comes from the garment industry, and the Shui family mainly operates a garment factory. As for Yang Chen's cultivation, Father Shui has always pursued an all-round follow-up, so that if the couple passed away in the future, Yang Chen would take over the Shui family's property and take care of their only daughter. At first, Yang Chen was also very obedient, and he studied step by step according to the plan that Father Shui gave him. Due to the factor of losing his parents since childhood, his studies were also extraordinarily serious and hard. However, it was too late to wait for Father Shui to be relieved. The young man's rebellious psychology happened to Yang Chen, who was only 19 years old. Last year, Yang Chen suddenly fell in love with music and began to have a great interest in music. At first, Father Shui didn't take it seriously, thinking that this was just a hobby of Yang Chen, so he didn't interfere too much. As Yang Chen became more and more obsessed with music, and even developed to the point where he was about to quit school, Father Shui finally couldn't sit still. Originally, Father Shui thought that after Yang Chen graduated from university, he would arrange for him to marry his daughter, and then enter the company logically to prepare for his next career. Everything was in order, and everything was going very smoothly. Now, the chains suddenly fell from Yang Chen. 8 years of painstaking efforts were ruined at one point. Father Shui was almost angrily admitted to the hospital. Amid Shui's father's strong objection, although Yang Chen felt very guilty, he still insisted on choosing the music he liked. To this end, he even moved out of the Shui family. Now, Father Shui can't do anything about it. As the saying goes, if the girl is too old to stay, the child can't help her. Yang Chen was determined to pursue his own music, and Father Shui could only compromise by default. According to Father Shui's idea, young people only know what is right and wrong and turn back only after encountering difficulties and banging their heads with blood. Shui Yufei, the eldest young lady of the Shui family, did not have any objection to Yang Chen's thoughts. When she saw Yang Chen moved out of the Shui family, she moved out without saying a word. According to Shui Yufei's words, her identity as Yang Chen's fiancée has long been known to the major families in Xiangjiang, and she can't take it off if she wants to. What's more, she never thought of taking off this identity. She likes to be by Yang Chen's side, and is used to being by his side. Her idea is very simple, that is, if Yang Chen goes there, she will go there. There is no way, Yang Chen can only accept Shui Yufei's choice for this fiancée who is a few days older than him, but who has been silently following him since childhood like a younger sister, never interfering with him in doing anything. At the beginning, when Yang Chen dropped out of school, Shui Yufei also applied for dropping out without hesitation. Not to mention her predecessor, even Yang Chen at this time couldn't bear to reject this fiancé, not to mention that this fiancé had a face that could bring disaster to the country and the people. Got out of bed, and walked towards the bathroom according to his memory. Looking at the small bathroom in front of him, Yang Chen couldn't help but think of the spacious bathroom of the Shui family. Compared with it, there is a world of difference between the two. 2 towels and 2 toothbrushes. Yang Chen picked up the man's toothbrush in front of him, squeezed the toothpaste and brushed his teeth while thinking about his future plans. Yang Chen neither objected nor supported the predecessor's desire to develop music. To be honest, the predecessor had no idea of becoming a big star at all. To put it bluntly, the predecessor was squeezed by various arrangements in the past, and wanted to escape from the original life so that he could have a space to breathe freely. The predecessor drank and got drunk yesterday, and it wasn't because the music made him lose hope and get drunk. Yesterday was the day when the predecessor's parents died. The predecessor drank too much while he was sad, and this happened. For the fact that there was no clear arrangement for the future in his predecessor's mind, Yang Chen shook his head speechlessly. You must know that the predecessor is not a person. Not only is there a fiancé by his side, but there are also 2 father-in-law and mother-in-law who are full of expectations for him as parents and children. The behavior of the predecessor, in Yang Chen's view, is simply playing the piano randomly. Yang Chen, whose edges and corners have been worn away by time, has long since lost the rebelliousness of his youth and the pressure in his life. He can experience some of it from the friends around him. In the previous life, Yang Chen lived in a single-parent family since he was a child. His parents divorced very early. Because his father was busy with work, he placed him next to his grandfather to take care of him. However, the grandfather who looks no different from normal people on weekdays, after drinking, it really means that the king and Laozi have to take a detour. The sky and the air, plus an actual combat skill, playing babies. After waking up, every time he saw Yang Chen covered in injuries, in order to maintain his grandfather's majesty, he euphemistically called him training Yang Chen's ability to fight. Yang Chen was used to it since he was a child. As the saying goes, a dutiful son emerges from a stick, and when he met such a grandfather, Yang Chen was like a neighbor's child since he was a child, but he was well-behaved, clever and obedient. However, this kind of life continued until Yang Chen went to college, and when the old man stretched his legs, it was completely over. There was no one to discipline him, and Yang Chen gradually began to become lawless. He was educated by the old man since childhood, and it was quite good for Yang Chen to practice horizontally. He was a good student on weekdays, but he changed his normal behavior. In the end, before he finished university, he transferred to another school with the farewell of all the teachers and students. Where did go? A nationally well-known university, which gathers the top talents from all walks of life. It claims to be a concentration camp that can accommodate all talents. After a few years of struggling at the social university, Yang Chen felt that studying every day was too tiring, so he began the most important stage of his life, staying at home to eat. Before his alcoholic grandfather died, he left a few houses for him. His name was written on the real estate certificate. After the house was handed over to the agency, he had a fixed income every month. Don't worry about eating and drinking, Yang Chen only does 3 things at home every day, that is, eat, sleep, and go to the toilet. He was so idle that he became fascinated with novels that made all young people want to stop and wanted to quit but couldn't quit, and became a glorious bookworm otaku. In the past life, I had been chewing for a long time, lazy cancer, and he couldn't change it even if he wanted to. Once a person does not work for a long time, and he does not have to worry about life, it is very difficult to go out again. Now that he has a new identity and a new beginning, except for the time and place, everything else has not changed. Naturally, Yang Chen will not be as decadent as in his previous life. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 3, Life. Chapter 3 Life. Xinjiang in the 1980s was full of opportunities. Since he came here, Yang Chen naturally wouldn't continue to live the bland life of his previous life. Everyone who travels to Xinjiang must have a dream of Li Jiaqing, Li Jiasen. Compared with other people, Yang Chen's mind is bigger. He didn't think about what Li Jiaqing did in the past, let alone what Li Jiasen did in the past. Since he is here, he naturally wants to rush to surpass Li Jiaqing, scramble for the opportunity that belongs to him, and suppress the other party, so that the other party can only eat dirt behind him forever. Only in this way can life be considered perfect. As for sleeping Li Jiasen, if there is no Shui Yufei, the fiancé who brings disaster to the country and the people, he might think about it. Now, he can't even think of this idea. After taking a bath, shaving, and taking care of personal hygiene, Yang Chen looked at the angular face in the mirror, which was somewhat similar to the male star Wu Yanzu. The corner of his mouth twitched, with a hint of evil in his eyes, which made Yang Chen somewhat understand why Shui Yufei would follow him closely, not leaving a single step. With this face and the gentle singing voice in the memory of his predecessor, even if he is a woman, he is not worried that his fiancée is outside alone. Between men and women, it starts with appearance, falls into talent, is loyal to character, and is drunk with affection. It can be said that the predecessors of these 4 points are almost all taken up. Naturally, Shui Yufei's heart was completely captured by him, and she could not escape if she wanted to. Not long, Shui Yufei came out from the kitchen with 2 bowls of noodles. Yang Chen sat on the sofa honestly from beginning to end, without any extra movement. According to habit, Shui Yufei never let him do this kind of thing. In the other party's words, it was her job and her pleasure. If Yang Chen helped, it would be equivalent to doing everything she did. Now Shui Yufei is relying on Yang Chen to support her. If she doesn't even have to do this, what's the difference with a parasite? This is Miss Shui's theory, and Yang Chen has no choice but to watch a young lady, slowly turning into a housewife. Well, you can start eating. Shui Yufei handed the chopsticks in her hands to Yang Chen's hands, her small tongue licked her rosy lips, and her index finger seemed to move. Wait. Just when Yang Chen took the chopsticks and was about to start eating, Shui Yufei reached out and blocked Yang Chen's tendency to bow his head. What's the matter? Yang Chen looked at her with a confused expression, not knowing why he stopped himself. Shui Yufei didn't speak, tilted her head, brought her face close, pointed her finger to half of her cheek, and motioned Yang Chen to give her a reward for her work. Seeing this, Yang Chen recalled it, thinking of the beauty of the iceberg in front of outsiders, but in front of him, she was like a child, asking herself for a reward. Yang Chen felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction in his heart. He honestly leaned in and kissed her tender cheek, and said with a smile, "Can I eat now?" Shui Yufei squinted and nodded, without stopping him. Maybe he was really hungry, and it didn't take long for Yang Chen to eat 3 or 5 mouthfuls, and nearly half of the bowl of noodles was lost. Seeing this, Shui Yufei, who was beside her, calmly divided half of the noodles in her bowl. Yang Chen didn't refuse, and took a sip of clear soup. Only then did Yang Chen feel a little warmer in her stomach, and there was something all over her body. Strength. Looking at Yang Chen, who couldn't help but be fascinated by eating noodles, Shui Yufei recalled the phone call from her father yesterday. Her brows were slightly wrinkled, and her expression was a little tangled. Seeing that Shui Yufei hadn't moved the chopsticks for a long time, Yang Chen looked up at her suspiciously. Seeing the sadness on her brows, Yang Chen couldn't help asking, "Yufei, what's wrong?" Is there something wrong? Hearing Yang Chen's question, Shui Yufei hesitated for a while, then lowered her head and said, Dad called and asked us to go home in 2 days. When Shui Yufei spoke, her eyes subconsciously looked elsewhere. She didn't look into Yang Chen's eyes, obviously she didn't want him to be embarrassed. After a while, seeing that Yang Chen didn't make a sound, Shui Yufei couldn't help but look at Yang Chen, but saw that he was not as worried as she thought, but instead smiled. It was unclear for a while, so Shui Yufei blinked and said cautiously, Chen, if you don't want to go back, I'll just call my parents and let them know. She knew that since the day Yang Chen came out of the Shui family, if he failed to make some achievements, once he stepped into the gate of the Shui family again, it would mean that Yang Chen would give up his unrealistic dreams and follow his father's standards again. Go forward on the path laid out for him. As a woman, she knows very well what a man's so-called face is. From the very beginning, Yang Chen was dubbed the son-in-law of the Shui family by the outside world. Although this was envied by many people, there were also many people who were also envious. And those who are jealous of Yang Chen, naturally won't say good things. She has been following Yang Chen, she is very aware of the thoughts of those people, and she also understands how much pressure Yang Chen has endured in the middle. If it wasn't for those gossip, Yang Chen wouldn't be able to bear it, and then left the Shui family. As for the music that Yang Chen pursued, in Shui Yufei's opinion, it was an escape at that time. Although Yang Chen is indeed very talented in music, in order to not be restrained, he would rather sing on the street than sign a record company. From this point alone, Shui Yufei knew her fiancé and never thought of proving herself through music. Influenced by her father, Shui Yufei knew very well that Yang Chen was destined not to embark on the path of being a star. Even if he did, he would at most only release records, and would not do things he didn't like doing according to the requirements of the record company. In this way, Yang Chen, who has no capital and no resources, is undoubtedly difficult to prove himself through his own efforts in a short period of time. And the reason why Shui Yufei follows Yang Chen closely is that once Yang Chen fails to do anything in the end, loses face, and is unwilling to enter the gate of Shui's family, she will always be by his side, guard him, and take care of his life. It was also during this period of life that the two no longer separated from each other and truly understood each other's true thoughts. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 4, Convention. Chapter 4 Covenant. Looking at Shui Yufei's eyes with a hint of anticipation, Yang Chen couldn't bear to refuse. It's just in the depths of his heart, because of the memory of his predecessor, Yang Chen was a little bit repulsive about the title of son-in-law of the Shui family on his head. Obviously, the memory of the predecessor is at fault again. If it were Yang Chen, he wouldn't care what others said at all. Think about how many otaku jiaozi in later generations, the one who wanted to marry Bai Fumei in his dreams, and went to the pinnacle of life from then on. Now that he has this opportunity, a fool would let it go. But then again, if he goes back like this, Yang Chen is somewhat unwilling. If he didn't have some goods in his head, he would be a parasite-like person, and he would not refuse Father Shui's arrangement for him. Now he obviously has the opportunity and the ability to create a world of his own, so why does he have to go back to accept other people's arrangements and let others decide his life? What he worked hard for is his own, and what belongs to others will always belong to others. Even if he takes over the property of the Shui family in the future, in the eyes of outsiders, Yang Chen is still the son-in-law of the Shui family. No matter how successful he is in the future, this title will always be with him, and he will never want to take it off. Thinking of this clearly, Yang Chen couldn't help raising his head to look at Shui Yufei who was in front of him, and said seriously, Yufei, give me a year, if I haven't done something that my father-in-law and his old man will approve of, I'll go back with you and follow the arrangements of my father-in-law and his old man. Do you think this is okay? Yang Chen asked. Is what you said true? You didn't lie to me? Shui Yufei confirmed in disbelief. Really? Yang Chen nodded heavily. In Yang Chen's opinion, he has the advantage of being a reborn person. If he hasn't turned out as a person within a year, it would be a real failure. Although he is now ready to start his own business, doesn't he still bear the name of the son-in-law of the Shui family? It really doesn't work, so go to the bank for a loan. With the identities of him and Shui Yufei, not to mention too much, as long as the bank is willing to look at Father Shui's face and loan him a few $100,000, then his first pot of gold will come. With the first pot of gold, in 1981, in Xiangjiang, if he still can't make a fortune, it is really unreasonable. However, he does not intend to earn the second pot of gold in his life in Xiangjiang, because he knows that there is a place outside that can bring him a 50-fold profit. Absolutely guaranteed profit. This is what Yang Chen inadvertently saw on the internet in his previous life. 50 times the profit, even if he only has a capital of 100,000 yuan, he can earn the first 5 million in his life. As for why he did not earn his second pot of gold in the Hong Kong stock market, the reason is very simple. First, Yang Chen's understanding of the Hong Kong stock market is only limited to the major events in it. If he wants to make quick money on the Hong Kong stock market, he is far from that ability. Second, the Hong Kong stock market in the 1980s was too small. In the early 1980s, the annual turnover of the Hong Kong stock market just exceeded 100 billion Hong Kong dollars. This is far from being comparable to the third largest financial center in the future, whose every move can affect the entire Asian financial industry. In the current Xiangjiang, if Yang Chen had that ability, as long as he showed it a little, he would soon attract the attention of others and follow suit. If he has enough money, he is not afraid of others following suit and drinking soup, but the problem is that he is not rich enough. Once someone follows suit, then things will be completely beyond his control. The pool is small, and the factor of human interference will be greater. Once it attracts the attention of others, a slap from those big companies is enough to slap him to death and make him bankrupt. Don't talk to me about confidentiality agreements, that stuff is about capital. You only have dozens or millions of people in your hands. Talking about confidentiality with others, your brain is flooded, right? Who do you think you are? Even if it is Li Jiaqing, when you think about the other party's failure to deal with Wharf, it is not difficult to see that for some things, you have no capital and you are nothing. If you want someone to keep it secret for you, you have enough capital. This is like those successful entrepreneurs, everything they say is chicken soup for the soul that people can learn from. And those successful people who are worth millions, in the eyes of most people, are nouveau riche at best, small bosses. No one drinks what they say, not to mention chicken soup, even abalone soup. After receiving Yang Chen's affirmative answer, Shui Yufei was extremely happy, but she didn't show it at all. She lowered her head to eat noodles to hide her inner joy. Regarding Shui Yufei's thoughts, Yang Chen combined his predecessor's memory, and he could guess one or two in his heart, but he didn't care. After all, Shui Yufei was also thinking of him. The two of them have lived together since they were young, and they used to live a life of worry-free and wealthy life. It's okay to experience the current life in a short time. If it lasts for a long time, let alone Shui Yufei can't stand it, even Yang Chen's predecessor himself has suffered. No. After eating the noodles, it was almost dark. According to the memory of the predecessor, it was almost time for them to go out and prepare to sing. According to the singing voice of the predecessor, if he wants to, he will be enthusiastically sought after singing in any bar, but the predecessor does not seem to like those places, and would rather sing in the street and be rewarded by passers-by, rather than go to the bar to sing. Xiangjiang in the 1980s is no different from a metropolis in the 21st century, and the nightlife is full of this oriental pearl. Thinking of the reincarnator's usual routine, Yang Chen had many ways to make money in his mind, but this first pot of gold really broke his head. The most difficult thing to earn in life is the first million. Without the original capital, even if you have great ability, you have to bow to reality. Although Yang Chen had read a lot of novels in his previous life, but if he wanted him to copy tens of thousands of words a day like those who were reborn, there was only one thing he wanted to say, and that was, I really can't do it. It's not that he can't copy books, but that he simply can't restore those millions of words of novels. Moreover, not everyone can be Jin Yong, nor is it just a matter of finding a newspaper and making a fool of yourself, and they will obediently raise the price for you and beg you to publish it. If it is true, there will not be only one Jin Yong in the whole Xiangjiang. Maxima is common, but bowl is not very common. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 5, Sing. Chapter 5 Singing. I went back to the house and changed my outfit. In Xiangjiang in January and February, the weather outside was still a bit cool. I wore a short-sleeved t-shirt inside and a medium-thick coat on the outside. As for the pants, looking at the flared pants of various colors piled up in the cabinet, Yang Chen was a little speechless. He just skipped it without thinking, and chose a pair of jeans hanging in the corner to wear. People rely on clothes and horses on saddles. Although it is true, sometimes there is no way to hide the value of beauty. People with high value, even if you wear a pair of flowery pants and walk on the street, you can also attract countless nymphomaniacs. Chase came to the living room and saw several big men helping to move things. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. Yang Chen saw it, and quickly stepped forward to thank you, Uncle Chen, I'll trouble you again. Hey, you kid, the middle-aged man saw that Yang Chen was being polite to him as always, smiled and shook his head, and didn't say anything more. The middle-aged man surnamed Chen Ming Aigua was the bodyguard sent by Father Shui to protect Yang Chen and Shui Yufei. In the 1980s, with the establishment of the Independent Commission Against Corruption, the issue of public security was not as chaotic as it was in the 1960s and 1970s. But like Yang Chen and the others, who openly sing on the street, and there are beauties like Shui Yufei following along, inevitably there will be some gangsters looking for trouble. For those who came from Father Shui from the 1960s and 1970s, caution is a must. Therefore, after Yang Chen left the Shui family, although Father Shui accepted his choice and did not interfere with his dream, he sent Chen Aigua out to protect the safety of the two of them. In this regard, his predecessor was not a little white who didn't know anything. Although he was a little conflicted, for the sake of Shui Yufei's safety, he still acquiesced. Soon, all the things that needed to be used were brought to the tricycle downstairs by Chen Aigua. Speaking of this tricycle, as well as the music equipment for singing, these things cost almost all the copper plates on Yang Chen's body after he left the Shui family. The front row two-seater tricycle, this is the first time Yang Chen has driven this kind of thing, although it is the first time, he is not very familiar with it. But with the memory of its predecessor, this kind of tricycle, which is not much faster than a tractor, is trivial in Yang Chen's opinion. While he was familiar with his own vehicle, he waited for Shui Yufei to go downstairs. Before girls go to the street, there is a common problem in any era, that is, men have to wait. After more than 10 minutes, Yang Chen finally waited until Shui Yufei went downstairs. At this time, Shui Yufei had already wrapped herself tightly, and at the same time was wearing a mask on her face, properly dressed as a 21st century female star. Did not speak, Shui Yufei trotted all the way over, got in the car and was next to Yang Chen. The faint feminine fragrance emanating from her body was very pleasant. Yang Chen's predecessor never liked women with heavy makeup, so Shui Yufei didn't do much makeup at home on weekdays, and only put on light makeup when she went out. Wearing the fashionable flared trousers of the 1980s, Shui Yufei had a different flavor on her body, with a low peaked cap on her head. The mask and the peaked cap instantly blocked her peerless beauty that brought disaster to the country and the people. Sit firmly, and said. Yang Chen started the small electric motor under the seat. Yang Chen didn't drive the car too fast along the way, and took advantage of this time to enjoy the scenery on both sides of the street along the way. Although the rush hour has arrived, there is still a gap between the number of cars in Xiangjiang in the 1980s and that in the 21st century. In addition, the place where Yang Chen sold and sang was not very far from the house where they lived, only a few streets away, less than 30 minutes away. The place where Yang Chen sings is fixed. It is outside a cafe, away from the driveway. The environment is relatively quiet, and there are usually a lot of people. He doesn't sing everywhere like those wandering singers. Chen Zai. As soon as the car stopped, the owner of the cafe saw Yang Chen and the two of them coming, and hurriedly greeted them. Chen Zai, you've come. Wu Yuming, the owner of the cafe, said with a wry smile. Uncle Wu, what's wrong with you? Yang Chen was confused, a little confused. Through the memory of his predecessor, the owner of the cafe in front of him is the father of his former classmate. The main reason why Yang Chen has been able to occupy the place to sell and sing is because he knows the owner of the cafe. Otherwise, if someone else comes here, let's see if anyone would be willing to let wandering singers like Yang Chen disturb the cafe business. Of course, there are also songs sung by Yang Chen's predecessor, which are more lyrical, like those who open their mouths and loudspeakers cover the audience. No matter how familiar they are with the boss, they won't let him stay here. Wu Yuming said with a wry smile, you didn't come yesterday. In the evening, when a bunch of customers asked me, especially which group of ants, my shop was about to be demolished. No way, they are so ruthless. Yang Chen couldn't help but think of a group of rebellious girls. Those girls who had always supported him, he couldn't help but mourn for Wu Yuming. I thought that I came here today to sing, that is to say, I would definitely not come again in the future, so I said, Uncle Wu, don't worry, this kind of thing will not happen again in the future. Wu Yu obviously didn't hear Yang Chen's implication. Hearing Yang Chen's affirmation, he thought that the other party would discuss with those little ants, so he said with a moved face, that's good, that's good. After, Wu Yuming saw Chen Aigua coming over and said, Chen Zai, Miss Xue, you are busy, I will not disturb you. Uncle Wu walked slowly, Yang Chen smiled and nodded. For Wu Yuming, Yang Chen is still very grateful. After all, the other party is willing to let Yang Chen's predecessor sell songs here for several months. No matter whether he brings business to the other party's store or not, he will still remember this friendship. The side has been silent. Xue Yufei, who was looking at the score, asked Yang Chen, Chen, what songs are you going to sing today? Affected by Yang Chen, Xue Yufei also learned something along the way. During this time, Xue Yufei had been accompanying Yang Chen's predecessor. Originally, what to sing every day, the two of them would decide in the morning or noon, but yesterday because Yang Chen drank too much wine and rested for a whole day, it was delayed. Hearing this, Yang Chen recalled what he would sing later, and said, I won't sing those songs today, I have prepared 10 new songs, you can just listen to them. 10 new songs, Chen, have you already written them? Xue Yufei's eyes lit up when she heard the words. Xue Yufei was not too surprised about Yang Chen writing a new song, because she always knew that Yang Chen was thinking about her new song. It's just that Yang Chen hasn't brought out his new song for a long time, and he even pretended to give her a surprise. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 6, 10 Songs. Chapter 6 10 Songs. Originally, she thought that Yang Chen would only prepare 1 or 2 new songs at most, but she didn't want Yang Chen to release 10 songs, which really surprised her. Seeing that Xue Yufei didn't doubt her new song, the corners of Yang Chen's mouth twitched slightly. Yang Chen pointed to his head and said, it's already written, it's all hidden here. Xue Yufei asked with a smile, then can I have a good time today? Yang Chen stretched out his hand and pinched Xue Yufei's cheek, and said proudly, not only will it make our family Yufei happy, but also let our family Yufei know what a musical genius is. He, then I'll wait. Xue Yufei was very sweet when she heard Yang Chen's words about our family Yufei, her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, in the shape of a crescent moon. Is it true? Great talent. Just as the two of you were fighting, a female voice interrupted the atmosphere of the two. Sister Chaoqiong, you are here. Seeing the person coming, Xue Yufei hurried over. The person here is none other than He de Qianjin, the daughter of the famous gambling king in Hong Kong in later generations. Miss He. Yang Chen touched his nose, but he didn't feel embarrassed because he was teased by He Qianjin. Seeing this future richest woman in Xiangjiang for the first time, Yang Chen was not surprised, because there was a lot of information about this gambling king's favorite daughter in his predecessor's memory. It should be said that the predecessor and He Chaoqiong also knew each other, mainly because of Xue Yufei. Because the two girls were similar in age and had different family backgrounds, they naturally chatted together. Generally speaking, same-sex repulsion, especially two beautiful women, is sometimes even more incompatible. But this kind of thing did not happen to the two women. This is due to Xue Yufei's character. In life, Xue Yufei is very low-key, and has always been a temperament that does not compete or grab. So much so that He Chaoqiong, the richest woman in later generations, cherishes her friend who looks and is harmless at heart. The more successful a person is, the better his family background will be, and the fewer close friends he has around him. In the same way, women from a family background like He Chaoqiong and Xue Yufei also have such problems around them. Although there are many people around the two women, but few are sincere, otherwise, the word scheming bitch will not appear in future generations. Let's start quickly, our great talent. I'd really like to hear what kind of surprise you have prepared for Yufei. If Yufei doesn't like it, I won't pay. Her words meant that she was listening to herself. If Shui Yufei didn't like it, it would be a real ghost. Beauty is in the eyes of beholder. Yang Chen believes that as long as his new song is decent, according to Shui Yufei's character, he will say he likes it. However, what Yang Chen wants is not that Shui Yufei likes it alone, but that everyone likes it. Moreover, when this mishap appeared, Yang Chen thought about where his first pot of gold should come from. Although this first pot of gold will not be earned from the opponent, it definitely requires the opponent to contribute. As a later generation, Yang Chen knew that when this young lady he was young, she was a star chaser. The affair between her and her first boyfriend is widely known in later generations. If I remember correctly, it was during this time period, which of her first boyfriends this miss he would start contact with next. Although he wanted to arouse the other party's goodwill and help him earn his first pot of gold, Yang Chen didn't want to steal the famous song of the other party's first boyfriend in the past. It's not that he doesn't want to, the most important thing is that he doesn't like any big star's song. Since he doesn't like it, he naturally won't sing it. Holding the guitar, Yang Chen began to tune. Although he only listened to songs in his previous life, he had never played an instrument, but he had the memory of his predecessor, so he was not unfamiliar. Soon, with the debugging process, Yang Chen slowly mastered the guitar, thinking about which song to start with. As early as when Yang Chen came, there were many people who often came to listen to his singing on weekdays, standing in a circle around him. Among them, the most special is a group of female students who have just finished school. They occupied the seats outside the cafe, while doing their homework, they waited for Yang Chen to sing. These female students are regular fans of Yang Chen, and they will stay here for an hour every day listening to Yang Chen sing, and then they will carry their school bags and go home. Because most of Yang Chen's fans are girls or young women, there will also be many male compatriots who stop curiously. However, because Yang Chen has been tuning, these people have not sung for a long time, and they left after a while. Cough cough, after tuning the guitar, Yang Chen gave him a light sound. Today, before I sing, I want to tell my friends who have been here for a while and listen to my singing. I like to hear 2 news. I hope you don't get too excited after listening to it. Yang Chen's opening remarks immediately attracted the audience who were familiar with him, and they all perked up their ears. The first message, that is, after today, I will leave here and not sing here. Of course, I won't go to other places to sing. There are many reasons why I came here to sing before, so I won't tell you more here. Yufei, Chen Zi, he figured it out. He Chaoqiong, who was sitting with Shui Yufei, asked Shui Yufei who was beside her curiously when she heard that Yang Chen would not come out to sing. Shui Yufei didn't seem to hear it, and didn't respond, because she was a little confused, and she didn't know why Yang Chen suddenly made such a decision. Seeing this, He Chaoqiong did not ask any further questions, and turned his attention to Yang Chen again. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 7, Opening 2 Songs. Chapter 7 Opening 2 Songs. No one was surprised that Yang Chen would not come here to sing in the future. Every time Yang Chen sings, there is no shortage of Chen Aigua and several people around him. For the protection of Yang Chen and the 2 of them, Chen Aigua and several people are also very dedicated, and basically they will not be too far away. Over time, even people who are not very careful will notice their presence. Those women with a bit of experience wouldn't think that big men like Chen Aigua would panic and come to cheer for Yang Chen every day. Since it is not here to cheer, the answer is naturally obvious. The other party should have had enough fun now and wants to leave, and listeners who are familiar with him will naturally not be surprised. The only thing that surprised them was that Yang Chen was able to persist here for so long, which was something they didn't expect. It took a few months, whether it was long or short, when they thought that Yang Chen would not come here to sing in the future, many people couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Among them, the group of female students showed the most obvious performance. They all stopped the pens in their hands when they heard that Yang Chen would not come here to sing in the future. Second news, that is, before leaving, I have prepared 10 new songs for everyone, and these 10 new songs are all composed by myself. Having said that, Yang Chen couldn't help blushing. Fortunately, Cheeky has always been the exclusive suit of the reborn, so Yang Chen blushed for a while, and soon returned to normal. 10 new songs, if there is no problem, I will release a record in the second half of this year, or next year, when everyone thinks it's good, you can give me the support you can. Releasing a record? He Chaoqiong became more and more curious when she heard that Yang Chen was ready to release a record, and even the time was set. Similarly, Shui Yufei couldn't help but be curious, but while she was curious, she couldn't help but wonder. You must know that Yang Chen is with her every day, she knows many of Yang Chen's thoughts, but she has never heard Yang Chen mention the issue of a record. For a while, Shui Yufei looked at Yang Chen's back. For some reason, she suddenly felt that she couldn't understand her fiancé. Next, please enjoy the first new song I prepared for you, called Midnight Moon Serenade. I hope you like it. Still leaning on the insomnia night watching the stars in the sky. I still hear the violin weeping and provoking. Why is there only a crescent moon left in my sky? The audio will be blocked after this night. Yang Chen's singing instantly stunned everyone present. There was no way. This Midnight Moon Serenade was later Li Kaqin's famous work, and the sung rate was quite high. The most important thing is that this song is still an authentic Cantonese song. In the 1980s and 1990s, Hong Kong Cantonese songs were all the rage. In the 1980s, Cantonese songs had begun to emerge, so when people listened to Cantonese songs, they couldn't help but keep listening. People like the bright moon in the sky cannot be owned. Love is like a song, only left behind, irreparable, and then parted. Why only disappointment fills my emptiness? No kiss goodbye tonight. As Yang Chen's singing came out, many passers-by were also attracted, while the initial audience fell into deep thought. This also includes two daughters, He Chaoqiong and Shui Yufei. At this time, the two women were completely shocked by Yang Chen's new song, and they were speechless. Is still saying that never thought is an excuse. Never intended to break up. But my heart is still possessed by her every moment. She seems to be silent this month. Violin solo, the bright moon leaning on the late autumn. My concern is my desire until later. After the song was sung, everyone fell into silence, no one made a sound, and no one applauded, and everyone was still immersed in the singing. And the people around Yang Chen, from the beginning, there were 20 or 30 people bustling, and after a song ended, hundreds of people gathered at once. There are men and women here, and more are single men and women who are attracted by Yang Chen's singing. Clap. I don't know who was the first to break this calm, and everyone came back to their senses for a while, and everyone gave Yang Chen a round of applause from the bottom of their hearts. Many people even took out their wallets, walked to the tricycle beside Lin Yi, and put their rewards into the guitar case on the car. At this time, Shui Yufei and He Chaoqiong also came over, occupying the front row of the tricycle for the first time, and at the same time thanked the generous audience. The reason why the two women ran over was for no other reason, just because the audience around them gathered more and more, and they were afraid that after a while, they would be completely blocked from the outside. Facing the thanks of the two beauties, some male listeners couldn't help blushing with thin skin, and they didn't dare to be stingy when giving rewards. Although the two women were beautiful, no one dared to speak out and flirt, because He Chaoqiong's bodyguards followed closely behind them. Although they were a little far apart, they weren't too far away. Anyone who was not blind could see the two. An extraordinary woman. Do it again, do it again. Just when Yang Chen was about to sing the next new song, the audience shouted to do it again, which made Yang Chen hesitate. However, regarding the audience's request, Yang Chen finally thought about it, but still did not continue to sing in response to their request. Today he has prepared 10 new songs in total, one from the beginning to the end, and then to the middle tuning, which takes at least 5 or 6 minutes. 10 songs are down, it is an hour. Once you start this, you will repeat each song again. He doesn't even sing for 2 or 3 hours. Don't do it again. If you really like it, you can wait patiently for me to release the album. You can listen to it as many times as you want. The next song is called After the Rain. I hope everyone likes it. When everyone saw Yang Chen say this, they immediately closed their mouths and quietly waited for Yang Chen's second song. Everyone was very much looking forward to Yang Chen being able to continue to surprise them. Ho Xian's After This Rain was Yang Chen's favorite song when he was in junior high school. Plucked the strings, and under the expectation of everyone, Yang Chen sang again. Nostalgic luggage. The fireworks that love is not finished. I carry the lonely umbrella through the night. Sadness soaked the neckline. Don't say it and pretend that the rainy season has been here. I'm waiting for you to finish the rain. The whole city cleans up the separation of this life. The heart is too much into the drama, the 4 seasons are just memories. Who is crying with the fireworks in his hand? To say that the Cantonese version of the Midnight Serenade made everyone unable to extricate themselves, this Mandarin version of After the Rain is even more touching. In the early 1980s, Cantonese songs were just emerging, and they were far less popular than later generations. At this time, Mandarin still occupied the mainstream. Because most of the listeners around are young people, and most of them are women, although the 2 songs are not very mainstream, they are definitely suitable for the listeners who are here now. Don't finish the rain if you can. Slow down and pick up your little bit. I'm afraid it's too late to look back and relive this moment as it was in the past. It's hazy outside the umbrella, but I'm waiting for you to finish the rain. The whole city cleans up the separation of this life. I'm afraid it's too late to look back and relive this moment as it was in the past. It's hazy outside the umbrella, but End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 8, The Girl Opposite Looks Over. Chapter 8 The Girl Opposite. Sang 2 songs in a row, Yang Chen listened to the warm applause from the surroundings, his vanity was greatly satisfied. Originally singing in front of so many people, he was somewhat apprehensive, but as he sang, the familiar melody immediately brought him in. After the 2 songs were sung, and they were so popular, he was not so nervous anymore. Come, drink 2 sips of water and then sing. Just as Yang Chen plucked the strings and was about to sing the next song, Shui Yufei, who was beside him, handed over the soothing throat tea that he had brewed earlier. Yang Chen didn't pick up the cup, he took 2 sips from the mouth of the bottle, then reached out and pulled the mask off Shui Yufei's face, and kissed her on the lips. After drinking 2 mouthfuls of throat tea, Yang Chen felt that his throat was much more comfortable. When Shui Yufei was playing the strings, he silently returned to the tricycle. Seeing He Chaoqiong staring straight at her, Shui Yufei said embarrassedly, Sister Chaoqiong, why are you looking at me like this? It's nothing, it's just that your teeth are getting sour. He Chaoqiong joked. Seeing that Shui Yufei was shy and not speaking, He Chaoqiong continued to ask in a low voice, I said, your great talent hides deep enough, just now I thought he was bragging, but now based on these 2 songs, if he releases a record, absolutely fire. But, He Chaoqiong smiled and looked at Shui Yufei in front of him and stopped. But what? Shui Yufei looked suspiciously at He Chaoqiong, who was deliberately trying to entice her. However, once he's on fire, you have to be careful. Look at the eyes of the women around here, and they all want to swallow a big genius in your family. He Chaoqiong said, and motioned Shui Yufei to pay attention to the women around her with green eyes. Those fiery gazes revolved around the fact that Shui Yufei, as a woman, was also terrified. Immediately afterwards, Shui Yufei seemed to be thinking of something, and suddenly turned to look at He Chaoqiong beside her. Seeing that she was like those women, staring at Yang Chen on the field without blinking, she felt a little vigilant in her heart. What are you doing? He Chaoqiong blinked at Shui Yufei's sudden glance, and asked with some guilty conscience, but his tone was a little lacking. Sister Chaoqiong, Chen is my fiancé. Shui Yufei said to He Chaoqiong very seriously. He Chaoqiong rolled his eyes, and said in a bad mood, I know. I grew up with him. I know, He Chaoqiong was a little dumbfounded. The person he likes is me, and the person he loves is also me. I know, He Chaoqiong was about to cry. I love him. I know, He Chaoqiong cried completely, tears streaming out. Ignored He Chaoqiong's tears, Shui Yufei continued to be serious, and she said, Sister Chaoqiong, even if you cry, I will not give you Qin. Ah, I killed you. He Chaoqiong was completely driven insane, and reached out to pinch Shui Yufei's neck. The 2 women started fighting inexplicably like this, and at this time, Yang Chen, who had finished tuning the voice, also noticed the situation on the 2 women's side. He didn't understand what was going on with the 2 girls, but he moved his hands, which made him speechless for a while, so that he couldn't sing the songs below. However, soon he had a flash in his head and thought of a song that was particularly suitable for the present. Ren Xianqi's, the girl opposite look over. After thinking about it, Yang Chen started singing to the two girls. The girl opposite looks over. Check it out. The performance here is brilliant. Please don't pretend to be indifferent. The sadness of a lonely boy. Say it, who will understand? I beg you to throw a wink over here. Coax me and make me laugh. Seeing that Yang Chen's style of painting suddenly changed, everyone's brains were buzzing, and they exploded. When Yang Chen was tuning the piano, it wasn't this melody, it came so suddenly, and it was so close to reality, many people thought that he sang it casually. There are not a few people who have this idea, even He Chaoqiong and Shui Yufei, who have stopped fighting, have the same idea. Hearing that Yang Chen was going to sing so naughty, the two women couldn't help but follow the lyrics and gave him a wink at the same time. I look left and right, look up and down. It turns out that every girl is not simple. I thought and thought, I guessed and guessed. Girls are really weird. After Yang Chen finished singing the song, look at the girl across from him, the male compatriots around him exploded all of a sudden, each and everyone blushing and howling with thick necks. And at this time, in the cafe closest to Yang Chen and the others, two middle-aged men heard this song, and a light flashed in their eyes, and at the same time, they looked at each other. Mr. Shen, how's it going? I'll just say he's very talented. Not to mention anything else, just these three songs, especially the one just now, will definitely be a hit. The person who spoke, named Wu Fan, is a senior detective of Polygram, who specializes in digging out potential singers for Polygram, just like the Korean scouts in later generations. Before Wu Fan happened to meet Yang Chen, seeing that he was very suitable for being a singer regardless of his appearance and voice, it was like signing a sign to Poly Gold. It's a pity, Yang Chen didn't have the intention to sign with the record company, which made him very unwilling. He tried to persuade him several times to no avail. Finally, when he found out about Yang Chen's background, Wu Fan just hit Shen Yun. Shen Yun, as the music director of Polygram's Hong Kong branch, once Yang Chen caught his eye, then things would be all right. It doesn't matter if he doesn't sign a contract, as long as he can make money for the company, he will also gain. Now seeing the appearance of his own director, Wu Fan knows that he did nothing wrong this time. After the girl opposite looked over and finished singing, Yang Chen continued to sing Beyonce, Like You, Really Love You, Cold Rainy Night, and Run Rants, a small building outside the mountain at night listening to the rain, by the inexplicable teams, Old Dream, J Cho, Fireworks Easy to Cold. He sang 9 songs in a row, except that, the girl across from him came over, was his inspiration, and it wasn't counted in the 10 songs, Yang Chen also prepared 2 songs to sing. Moreover, these 2 songs were specially prepared by him for his current fiancée, Shui Yufei, and had to be sung. 9 songs have been sung, I still have 2 songs here, do you want to continue listening? Think, facing Yang Chen's question, thousands of people around him responded in a loud voice. At this time, there were already patrol officers around to maintain order. As early as half an hour ago, the surrounding patrol officers had noticed this place. Originally, according to the law and order, Yang Chen's behavior would be driven out. However, there were too many listeners around. When everyone saw the patrolman preparing to drive Yang Chen away, they all stared at the boss, which made all the patrolmen in trouble. In the 1960s and 1970s, the Hong Kong police would not have to be afraid of these ordinary citizens, but since the establishment of the Independent Commission Against Corruption until the early 1980s, the police have gradually become more disciplined. The voice of the citizens is particularly important. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 9, Sanshengshi. Chapter 9 3 Life Stones. In the face of complaints from ordinary citizens, after the police department has held the police accountable, ordinary police officers dare not continue to ignore the complaints of citizens. In addition, Yang Chen was only singing here, and he didn't block the traffic. At most, there were more people gathered around. The surrounding patrol police turned a blind eye to this, and automatically maintained the law and order. After listening to a few songs, the atmosphere of the dozens of patrol officers around was also aroused, especially a few female police officers, ignoring the surprised eyes of their colleagues, followed the audience and shouted in unison. There are 2 more songs below, which I wrote specifically for my girlfriend and fiancé. That's right, it's my girlfriend and fiancé. Ladies here, please don't have any thoughts on my little brother. My little brother, I have always only been a showman and not a showman. No, I'm only a showman and not a showman, because my heart has already belonged to my heart, so don't think about me all the time. Cut. Many female compatriots heard the words, Chi Chi cut Yang Chen. Of course, there are also many people here who are really sad. Many people subconsciously cast their hatred on the 2 women, He Chaoqiong and Shui Yufei, who were sitting in the front seat of the tricycle. No way, aside from Yang Chen, the 2 women, a group of bodyguards and patrol officers were the most conspicuous. However, this kind of hatred was relieved by Yang Chen's funny words, which made the female compatriots not too excited. Next, the name of the song I'm going to sing is Only Feel For You. Come here soon. Yang Chen turned his head to look at Shui Yufei, seeing that she was still sitting on the tricycle dumbfounded, not knowing what cooperation was at all. Yang Chen helplessly waved to her. Seeing Yang Chen beckoning to her, Shui Yufei was a little overwhelmed, and Yang Chen, who couldn't wait, walked directly to the front of the tricycle, and hugged her from the tricycle. Seeing Yang Chen carrying Shui Yufei away with his own eyes, He Chaoqiong, who was sitting on the tricycle, suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Speaking from the bottom of his heart, He Chaoqiong was jealous, and he didn't know why, or when, Yang Chen first appeared in his mind. The eyes with no solution are like needles in the sea. Just guessing that I have a lack of appetite. A bit annoying and a bit charming. After the song was sung, when everyone came to recall, Yang Chen raised his hands and asked in a loud voice. Everyone said, "Does it sound good?" "It sounds good, it doesn't sound good." At this moment, the voices of the compatriots, men and women, were immediately reflected. The man said it was good, because they learned a song about picking up girls from Yang Chen, while the woman was dissatisfied with Yang Chen's undisguised, even blatant show of love. No way, what this song wants to express is too obvious, and it can't even cover it up. However, dissatisfaction returns to dissatisfaction, but this does not prevent everyone from loving the song itself. This also indirectly proves that music knows no borders, and it also knows no age. There is especially music that reflects the love between men and women. No matter how the times change, no matter how rich or poor you live, your first love is the purest, without any preservatives added, and it is also the most memorable and nostalgic for people. In the face of everyone's booing, Yang Chen pressed his hands down to calm everyone down, shrugged his shoulders, spread his hands and said, "You guys are making it hard for me. I have a song here, you guys can't say it right now, I'm too embarrassed to continue singing. Why don't we leave first? Everyone should go home for dinner." No, okay. When they heard that Yang Chen was not ready to sing the next song, everyone became anxious and shouted in unison. Seeing that everyone was subdued, Yang Chen couldn't help showing a wicked smile, and shouted, "Then give you another chance, is it good or not?" Okay, listen. After the trouble was over, everyone calmed down and shouted in unison. There is no way, they are also afraid that if they say it is not good, Yang Chen will really stop singing. After all, this is not a concert, and the stars must be responsible to the fans who pay for the tickets. Looking at Yang Chen, who was driving the atmosphere of the audience with every move in front of him, Shui Yufei seemed to have reacquainted with her fiancé, with a little bit of infatuation in her eyes. Similarly, for Yang Chen's atmosphere that can drive fans, let all fans fall into his rhythm, and control the audience, it also surprised Shen and Wu in the coffee shop. Although there were not many people on the field, there were only thousands of people, and they were all young men and women, but please don't forget that most of these people were gathered by Yang Chen with his own singing. After listening to a song, many people will not move their footsteps anymore, and let the original listeners become their fans. As for Yang Chen's accompaniment, there was only one guitar from the beginning to the end, so he didn't add anything else, just relying on his own voice to impress the audience. To be able to do this, in the eyes of Shen and Wu, it was already very remarkable. The next song, before singing this song, I want to ask everyone present, have you heard of Sen Chengxi? Without waiting for everyone to answer, Yang Chen said to himself, it doesn't matter whether you have heard of it or not. Here, I have a story about Sanshengshi that I want to share with you. I wonder if you want to hear it." Once again, without waiting for everyone to answer, Yang Chen waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter if you don't want to listen, because I still have to say it, otherwise what if you don't understand what I'm singing next?" This guy, everyone had no choice but to up their ears and listen carefully to Yang Chen. I don't know if anyone has heard the story of Sanshengshi. If anyone here has heard of Sanshengshi, they should know such a passage. Sansheng once knew each other, said goodbye to Sanshengxi Bridge, Sanshengshi, Sanshengshi, Sanshenglu, and Sansheng on the stone. 3 lives originated from the Buddhist theory of causality and reincarnation, and later became a symbol of lifelong love in Chinese history. The 3 lives of the 3-born stone represent the past life, this life, and the next life. Many people's love starts from a feeling of déjà vu, and after falling in love, people will definitely look forward to the 3 lives. The next story I'm going to tell is about a hermit in the Tang dynasty and a Zen master in a temple. In other words, in the Tang dynasty, there was such a rich boy, his name was Li Yuan. Because his father died in the turmoil and realized the impermanence of life, he vowed not to be an official, not to marry a wife, not to eat meat, and even finally put his family donated to rebuild a temple, and lived in a temple to practice. The abbot of the temple, Zen master Yuanguan, is very good at managing temple properties and understands music very well. Li Yuan gradually became good friends with him. Know what they're talking about. The story of Zen master Yuanzi, Guan, and Li Yuan has been widely circulated. Today, outside the Tianzhu temple in the West Lake in Hangzhou, there is still a large stone left. Monk Yuanguan repaid Li Yuan's friendship with 3 lives. His affection was so high and his righteousness was so thick that it could not be measured. The reason why this story continues to circulate is that it reflects the good wishes of people. 3 birth stone, 3 births are lucky. In fact, it is the 3 reincarnations of people, stones, metaphors for solid, firm beliefs, that's all. Later, this wonderful story of men's friendship was transformed by a dream of red mansions into, because there is a crimson grass plant on the banks of the 3 live stones on the bank of the Lingyi River in the west, nourished by the essence of heaven and earth, nourished by rain and dew, cultivated into a female body, that is, deduced into an out-and-out, male and female love, swan song version. So far, the 3 live stone has become an iron symbol of marriage. The so-called destined 3 lives refers to a happy marriage in the past life, this life and the next life. End of this chapter. Rebirth of Hong Kong 1981 Chapter 10, Leave. Chapter 10 Leaving. Although Yang Chen talks a lot and the story is not short, but with his voice and control of the rhythm, people unconsciously blend into the storyline. For a while, the audience around them knew about Sanshengshi or didn't know about Sanshengshi, through Yang Chen's description of the story. Let everyone present have a deep understanding of Sansheng stone. From friendship to love, 3 life stones, 3 lives are determined by fate, all encounters are predestined, past life fate, this life encounter, 3 life acquaintance. Without waiting for everyone to recollect, Yang Chen has already started singing. The wind is here to stick to the thoughts of the passers-by. The rain is here, entangled in a thread, we are nostalgic in the world. When you are by your side, fate is written on the 3 live stone. Believe that love is worth one day and forever freezes time at this moment. Those who don't know how to be gentle, we thought it was just an old rumor. How painful can the sorrow be? When the dream was buried in the middle of the Jiangnan misty rain, I only understood. After singing the song, when everyone woke up, Yang Chen was no longer there. Not only Yang Chen, but even Shui Yufei and He Chaoqiong disappeared without a trace. For a while, the surrounding audience seemed like a dream, standing there dumbfounded, until after a long time, the crowd dispersed silently in 2s and 3s. At this moment, across the street from where Yang Chen was singing, Shui Yufei waved her hands out of breath, "No way, I can't run anymore." Hearing this, Yang Chen looked left and right, seeing that no one was chasing after him, then he stopped gasping for breath. The 2 looked at each other, looking at each other, only each other in their eyes. Gradually, approaching each other. The 2 had a passionate kiss, embracing each other regardless of the many passers-by who were looking back on the street. On the other side, He Chaoqiong, who was also tired and out of breath, couldn't help but feel jealous when she saw the scene that made her roll her eyes before she could catch her breath. I don't know how long it has been, but I can't stand the strange eyes of many passers-by. He Chaoqiong shouted at the two of them angrily. Hey, I said, how long are you two going to kiss? Enough is enough. He Chaoqiong yelled hysterically, apparently about to be driven crazy by the two of them. Cough cough. At this time, Yang Chen and Shui Yufei also noticed the strange eyes of passers-by around them. In the 1980s, the people of Xiangjiang were very open-minded, but such scenes of hot kisses in the street and surrounded by bodyguards were really rare. Therefore, Yang Chen and his party of three were particularly eye-catching. Yang Chen looked down at Shui Yufei in his arms, and then looked up at He Chaoqiong, who was unhappy, and said, well, everyone must be hungry, why don't we find a place to eat supper? He Chaoqiong snorted coldly, neither agreeing nor rejecting, apparently tacitly acquiescing to Yang Chen's decision. As for Shui Yufei in Yang Chen's arms, she was still reminiscing about the passion just now, and she still hasn't recovered. The three of them walked all the way along the street, and after Shui Yufei came to think about it, they began to discuss what to eat. As for the tricycle outside the cafe, and the musical instruments that Yang Chen spent a lot of money on, they were forgotten by the three of them. Though those things are not cheap, it depends on who they are. People like Yang Chen, who have caught by Fume and are already on the road to the pinnacle of life, naturally don't have to worry about those things. Of course, those things will not be discarded by Yang Chen. For Yang Chen or Shui Yufei, those things are still very valuable in memory. The three randomly found a small stall on the street. As a highly modernized city in Asia, there are naturally many well-known snacks on the street. These things are not only extremely attractive to Yang Chen, but also to the two eldest misses, Shui Yufei and He Chaoqiong. He Chaoqiong asked Yang Chen aloud while eating, Yang Chen, since you have decided not to sing, what are you going to do next? Find a record company to sign a contract and become a big star. As Shui Yufei's good sister, He Chaoqiong naturally learned a lot of information about Yang Chen from the other party, and knew that the reason why Yang Chen went to sing was because he didn't want to be bound by the record company. But before Yang Chen said that he would no longer sing, and that he had plans to make a record, she couldn't help but wonder if Yang Chen's original thoughts had changed. When He Chaoqiong asked this question, Shui Yufei also looked at Yang Chen curiously, and also wanted to know what the other party was thinking now. Even, she faintly suspected that Yang Chen was behind her back and secretly signed a contract with a record company. A record must be released, but it's a big star, I can't tell. I haven't signed a contract with any record company yet, and I haven't thought about signing a contract. As you all know, I have always disliked being bound by others. When I sign a contract with a company, the artist has to obey the company's arrangements in everything. This is not what I want. Besides, Yufei's father would not agree. Seeing Yang Chen say this, He Chaoqiong frowned and continued to ask, if that's the case, how are you going to release a record? You have spoken out in front of so many people before, I believe your fans will definitely wait. You make a record. He Chaoqiong's words were not serious, but her tone was obviously a little unhappy. If Yang Chen's words were not counted, then her impression of Yang Chen would inevitably decrease. Seeing that He Chaoqiong misunderstood him, Yang Chen didn't care, and asked with a smile, whoever said the record has to sign with the record company? Otherwise? You are a newcomer who has not been appraised by the market. Do you think you can make those record companies release records for you without signing a contract? Obviously, although He Chaoqiong is not in the circle, she still sees some things very clearly. As the beloved daughter of the gambling king and a businesswoman in later generations, she knows better what the top management of the record company thinks. What is visible does not mean that you can touch it. If you can touch it, it does not mean you can get it. For any company, the most important thing is the real interests. Of course, she also thought about Yang Chen making a record, but the question is, where does the money come from? If you want a record company to help release a record, and the artist does not sign a contract, the cost is not a small amount. End of this chapter.